Hello, Internet. Hello, Facebook. Hello, YouTube, Instagram, anywhere else this video may appear. My name is Samuel Huber from SamuelHuber.net. Huber Family Adventures on Instagram, Samuel Huber on YouTube, Samuel Huber on Facebook. I'm here today with Shalese and Nicole, also known as the Autistic Traveling Goddess. Why don't you tell the folks a bit about yourself?
So my name is Shalese Hurd. I actually am a travel blogger and a motivational speaker, and I'm an upcoming author as well. So I love to travel. Travel has always been my special interest because I've always been into geography, just because I always felt connected to place. It was my outlet, and it was something that I felt connected to just because being autistic, I felt not so connected to people. And so place was always something that I really felt connected to, especially like when I think about geographical landscapes and properties and things of that nature. And I decided, recently as I was doing my traveling to actually delve into personal development, how, travel has, developed me and helped me to get some self worth, and it's helped me to have confidence and expand my horizons and even build a business and a career out of it as well. So that's where I come with, my personal development line of books that will be coming out and my motivational speaking.
Yeah, it's definitely like the secret, folks, for other Aspies out there. Focus on your passions, and you'll find a way to socialize and be in the world. Can you tell us a bit about why you chose traveling as your brand? Like, how did you come up with Autistic Travel Guides? Like, why is that your brand?
So one day, I know during my last semester of grad school, I was, thinking about how much I wanted to travel after I graduated, and the fact that I wanted to have my own travel blog, my own travel show, just because I grew up, that was the only TV I would watch was travel shows and Discovery Travel and
Mm,
anything in National Geographic. That was the only thing I would watch. And so geography being my special interest, I knew I wanted to pursue something like that. And I, was one day playing around on the internet, looking at different travel blogs, and I came up with the name Autistic Travel Goddess because the name Goddess, I have a friend of mine who had a crush on me in grad school. He would call me a goddess. And so I wanted my channel to be, catered to see autistic people travel. And so that's what made me come up with the name Autistic Travel Goddess. It seemed like a convenient name. So
hmm Yeah, and it definitely fits your personality. For anyone who knows you, that you're, if for those who don't know, she's a very big, loud personality, but in a good way. Because a lot of people view autistic people as very introverted, and you are definitely proof that we can be extroverted and show the world,
mm,
here we are.
yeah. And the crazy thing about it is like when you think about the definition of introvert versus extrovert, like I actually do get my energy being introverted. Like I get more energy being by myself. So I technically am an introvert, but I don't mind, meeting people and expressing myself. Like I'm pretty much vivacious on social media. Like I love to write and speak up and, show my creativity.
Mm. So you're saying being extrovert introverted is like being on the spectrum,
Yeah.
because no one is completely extroverted or introverted.
They actually would call that ambiverted. That's what
We
they
all are
call
ambiverted. You just got to put us in the right situation at the right time.
That's what it is. And see what it was, I think getting involved in my passion really bought that out of me because before I got involved in my passion, I was very much like reserved and, quiet and not as outspoken. And then part of it too was growing up and learning who I am as an autistic person and having more confidence is what taught me to be more outspoken because at one point in time I was very quiet due to the fact that I was bullied a lot and I didn't know who I was. I was, pretty much beat down being autistic. And so I was scared to speak up and express myself. But as I became an adult, that's changed.
Yeah, I found that for myself too. Speaking of your autism, how has your perspective on your experience being autistic changed over the years?
Growing up, I always thought something was wrong with me. So when I first was told while I was in special ed classes, I did not understand why I was in special ed classes.
Mm,
Because as far as I knew, I got good grades in school. I always would get A's. I sure got the best grades in high school. So it was like, why am I in these classes? I did not understand. And so
mhm,
it was explained to me that it was because of social skills that I needed to learn and speech therapy because I was nonverbal in elementary school. And so
mm,
I didn't understand it at the time, and so I would go to speech therapy. And I think I went through denial the first few times I heard about it. I was in denial that something was wrong with me, supposedly.
mm,
And over time, I came to a painful realization when I was in high school. I had a classmate of mine who actually told me that it's obvious something's different about me, and that was kind of when I had my reality check. That maybe I am autistic, and everyone could tell. And I even had a teacher point out that he could tell that I had Asperger's, or
Mhm.
autism. Now, I started my journey learning about autism. I got curious when I was in about high school, toward my senior year of high school. I got really curious about, like neurodiversity and autism advocacy and how we could make ourselves an agency, on campus and even in the world. So I started looking at different forums, different groups, and even started a group in high school for autistic kids.
Mhm.
And I just got really passionate and interested about it. And the more I learned about autism and our gifts, the more I learned about our strengths and how, talented we are, the more I started to embrace it. And it became to the point where I felt like I was super proud of it. Like I went from being ashamed, from being in denial to being ashamed to being super proud and like shouting from the rooftops, I'm proud and autistic.
Yeah, I think that that's the huge thing is like finding how our autism affects us. That we don't have to be experts in autism, but just like, okay, this is a journey about finding myself, not beating
Yeah,
myself up.
absolutely.
If you could tell young Shanice anything, what would that would be?
Young autistic people.
Yeah, no, you yourself as a child. Like, if you could go back in time and like run up to yourself, like, I need to tell you something. What would that be?
I would tell my young self all those times I cried about wanting to be normal like my friends, all those times I cried about hating myself because of the way I was treated and how I didn't have what my neurotypical friends had. I would tell myself that, God made me special, and I would, go into all my gifts and talk about, you see, this is what you're good at that your classmates aren't good at. This is how God has made you. He's made you something special, and he's got something much more special for you. So I think you should love on yourself. Like the thing that makes you different and the thing that you're so ashamed of and the thing that people have shamed you for and made you the black sheep for is your very gift that you should embrace and you should shout it from the rooftops. And
Mm,
I would tell myself as a child that I should love myself more.
mm,
Like I should totally value what I have and don't listen to all the people that are telling me to hate myself because of who I am.
mhm. Beautiful, and that's definitely the journey I'm on as well. How important is self care for people on the spectrum? We're so used to other people taking care of us, but now that
Yeah.
we're adults, we have to learn this whole concept of self care that we can't wait for someone to tap us on the shoulder and be like, "Sam, brush your teeth." Shanice, like, did you put on your pants today? Yeah, it comes down to self care. How important is that for you?
Do you mean in terms of how important it is if someone asks me to take care of myself?
No, like you have to learn to take care of yourself as an adult. I'm asking like how important is that to your overall success in life, like your daily routine?
Oh my God. Like I love my routine. I can't live without it.
Amen.
Um, and it's something that I do for myself. Like it's something that I've established for myself.
Mhm.
Um, Without my routine, I can't really focus, on what I need to do for the day. And if I start my day off wrong, it's like the whole day just goes to hell if I started off wrong.
Mhm. So can you, for the younger Aspies out there who are just learning to be on their own, what have you found in your routine that really helps you start off on a good foot?
For me, I do something either stimulating to myself, and what I find stimulating to me is going for my walks and listening to my favorite music.
Mhm.
And I would say find that thing that gets you excited in the morning. Like find whatever it is that makes you excited and like go with it. Use that to start your day off.
Mhm. Beautiful. Earlier, you mentioned some books that you're writing. Can you dive into that a bit? Give us a sneak peek at what's you're writing about.
So here lately, I've been writing about one of the topics I'm actually covering is being autistic and growing up, in a religious household. Being
Mm,
autistic and being Christian and my journey, what that was like, finding my faith and
mhm,
how is it that I can connect from God to God being autistic. And the thing about it is I never thought that I was a spiritual person because, being autistic, I couldn't understand abstract things and I could not connect to anything I could not see. And so actually there was a point in my time I considered myself an atheist, when I was younger. But then it occurred to me, as I became an adult, that you don't have to do everything that you see the church do. Like you don't have to do everything that's considered traditional to be considered connected to God.
mhm,
There's, God comes to people in different ways. And the other thing that I was going to write about was a series of like building your confidence, things that help you to learn who you are. Like actually one of the books I'm coming out with is about using your personality and your motivational
Mm,
value system, which is how your work value system is. Basically, it's your what is the type of work you do to that gives you value. You know,
mm,
your motivations and your conflict sequence. I was going to write about that and how that can help you with determining your worth and what it is you want to do with your life.
mhm.
So that's another thing I'm writing about. And it's going to be a bunch of like confidence building books.
That's great. I think another huge topic we were talking about before I turned the recorder on is for a lot of people know the ratio for men and women on the autism spectrum is 4 to 1. In
Hmm.
my own research, I found just through Instagram so many um, women on the spectrum. What is it uh, like to be an autistic woman? Because a lot of people think, oh, this is a boy disorder. Girls can't have it.
Yeah, actually, I would think when I read more about women with autism, I actually can say that I was not the norm. Like, because when it came to me, I was actually just like when it came to showing symptoms and how it manifested, I was actually just like the boys in that regard.
Hmm.
So, like a lot of women, they say hide their symptoms a lot. I was not one of those women who were able to hide her symptoms. And actually, when I first got diagnosed at the age of 2, I had all of the symptoms that the boys, had, and then the doctors refused to believe that I was diagnosed. Like they actually did not want to diagnose me with autism just because they didn't believe that girls could have it.
Hmm.
But I exhibited all the traits of autism.
Hmm.
And so I would say for me, like being a woman with autism, like because I'm not one of the females that hide it.
Hmm.
It's been a little bit awkward for me, like especially when it comes to dating.
Hmm.
No one's really used to dealing with girls who are obviously autistic, and so for
Hmm.
me, it's been interesting. Like
Hmm.
no one could believe that I had autism. I've come up with a lot of disbelief because people say that, oh, you're attractive, you can't be autistic. You got your degree, you can't be autistic.
Yeah, I experienced that before I met my wife too. It's just like this whole, but you can talk so clearly. You're not twitching. You're not throwing,
Yeah.
tearing apart the room. Uh,
And the thing is, when I was little, like I had, when I was a kid, I had the things that, I would throw things, I would do the hitting. I was repetitive. I actually wasn't even verbal for the longest.
mhm.
So
What would you say to young Aspie girls that who think that they should hide their autism? How would they go about disclosing that to other people, and not only that, accepting that it's a beautiful part of themselves?
I would let them know, if I could go back and if I were to walk into an autistic girl today and she was hiding her autism, I would let her know that she should just be herself. Like, I'm just going to warn her in advance that, anyone who runs away from you just because you're autistic, because I've had guys, run away from me the second they found out I was autistic. And I would let them know immediately, don't be discouraged by that because anybody who doesn't accept you for having autism, don't worry about being accepted because if they don't accept you, then that means they're not worth your time.
Hmm.
And the second thing I would tell them is that just showing your autism would attract the right people to you. It would attract the right people. It would attract the right opportunities to you. So you'd be doing yourself a disservice and actually hurting yourself if you don't, show that you have autism and you don't embrace it.
Hmm.
So I'd say that you're better off, embracing it and loving yourself and not worrying about what people think and who would accept you and who won't accept you because the right people will matter.
Right,
They're the
and
ones
yeah, that's what I do during my talks. I always tell young people on the spectrum, like, make autism your pickup line, like that we're
yeah,
brutally honest, that we'll tell
yeah.
you if you're in that dress or not, or we also force the other person to be specific on what they want. There's no, you should
Mhm.
just know. There's just, what do you want? I we can do this
Right.
game all day, but I will never guess that. And I think
I
that's
know,
the beautiful thing
right?
about dating people on the spectrum is like we get down to the nitty gritty of what it means to accept each other and love each other. We don't have time for those games because
Yeah, no. And then, you have to really explain to them, the fact that if you go through your life masking, you end up, building up a glass tower that's going to break on you.
hmm
Essentially, you end up building this like expectation, and then you're not going to be able to keep up with it, and it's going to stress you out. It's going to cause you, like identity conflict, and so you don't want to deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to cause you self-esteem issues if you don't embrace who you are.
Yeah, and the other part is you're putting up walls, so you're never letting any person in. If you're gonna find the
Mhm.
one, you have to let that person in.
Exactly. And I mean, I can speak for that because that's been my mistake.
Hmm. But it's something we've learned as young adults on the spectrum, and this is something that every I think young adult experiences. If you build up walls, you're not gonna find love. But if you let your walls
Absolutely.
down, you get so much love. And if someone hates you when your walls are down, then just boot their butt out of your country,
Yeah.
or send them off with love. What
Right.
focus on the people that are accepting the real you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Let's see what else I got for you. I lost my questions. Almost there. Um, if you could change one thing about how the world views autism, what would it be and why?
So I get a lot of times people say that people with autism are selfish. They think that we're aloof and that we're, unaware of the world around us. And I would have them know that that is the furthest thing from the truth. If anything, we feel more, we empathize more than the average person. We are more attuned to our surroundings than anybody else. Like I have them know that.
Mhm. Yeah, it's because we don't have that social filter built in our brain, so we feel everything like from
Yeah, and
sensory
see,
to emotions, and it just takes it a
yeah,
little longer to process because we're feeling everything that a neurotypical person's brain just subconsciously processes. So we're processing everything
right.
consciously.
And see, we don't have the distractions, of trying to perform social niceties. We don't have those distractions, and so we're more aware and more willing to face what we have. There's no barrier.
Exactly. Um, is there anything you want to say to the audience? Like, how can people follow the autistic traveling goddess, or anything else you're doing?
Well, you can follow me on Autistic Travel Goddess Instagram, Autistic Travel Goddess Facebook, Autistic Travel Goddess YouTube.
Mhm. All right. What's next on the horizon? Where are you going when this whole coronavirus thing is over?
When this whole thing is over with, I wanted to go to Southeast Asia and explore Bali, Thailand, and I actually want to spend a month in the Philippines. But it doesn't look like international travel is going to be happening this year. So in case that does not happen, I do want to go to Alaska, and I want to spend my summer in Maritime Canada, which is Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Prince Edward Island.
And as a bonus question, how have you dealt with traveling and like with your sensory issues, and like how can an autistic person like be comfortable traveling on themselves? We're so used to having our Avengers team behind us to protect us. Like seems like you're traveling all by yourself. How can other people, other aspies, get to that point where they can go to Southeast Asia all by themselves for a month?
You know what? I'm just gonna say this much. Like, I think one of the things that helps me, besides the obvious things of having my sensory headphones on to get to deal with noise, and always finding my space. Like, 'cause I'm one of those people who I already social distance when I travel, so that's why this coronavirus thing is nothing new to me because I'm always trying to scope out the ways to avoid a crowd.
Yeah, same here.
But I am also like when it comes to dealing with sensory issues, like I'm willing to pay extra to go into lounges, to avoid the noise of the airport.
Mm,
I'll pay extra to stay in certain hotels to avoid, certain bright lights and things like that. So I'm willing to pay extra for to take care of my sensory needs. In addition to that, I do find I like to listen to my comforting music, and I love listening to, reading my favorite books.
mhm,
And also, I don't put pressure on myself to see everything in one day. Like that's why I give myself enough time when I'm there, because I give myself a few days to get my bearings. Because when I went to I actually spent the month and a half in Europe at the beginning of the year, and I
mhm,
gave myself about 3 days to gather where I was and get my bearings. I
mhm,
didn't put too much pressure on myself to see everything because I know me. I'm very much a list person. Like I have a checkbox of everything that I want to follow, and if things don't go according to plan, then I start to get upset. And so, in order to not fall into that trap, I just don't put the pressure on myself anymore.
mhm.
That and the bonus thing for me is the fact that I want it so bad, like the fact that I really want to travel so much to the point where it doesn't matter to me that, having people with me doesn't matter to me just because I want this so bad and I know that I'm going to make it happen, even though I'm autistic and I have these sensory issues.
That's beautiful. So you heard it, young Aspies. If you want it bad enough, just go for it.
That's
And
what it is. Like, you'll find a way. If you want it bad enough, you'll find a way. Like, it won't matter who's talking against you. It won't matter who says you can't travel. You'll do it.
mhm. All right, thank you so much for coming on my show. Everyone, follow the Autistic Traveling Goddess on YouTube, on Instagram, wherever else she may appear. Thank you so much for coming on my show. This is Sam Heber signing off.
Thank you.